Hey, what do you do with your money? If you're like most teens, you spend half your money for food and clothing, and you buy a lot of clothes online rather than going to a store. Let's talk about money, your money, and how you spend it. I'm Herb Weisbaum, and welcome to the Consumerman Show on lifesmarts.org.
The Consumerman Show is brought to you by the good folks at Credit.com. Credit.com, a place to comparison shop for credit cards and get your credit score absolutely free every 30 days, plus expert advice on a variety of financial topics. Now, here's America's consumer expert and the national quizmaster for Life Smarts, the Consumerman Herb Weisbaum.
Managing your money is a skill like driving a car. You have to learn how to do it, then practice a lot. Liz Weston, the money columnist for MSN Money, is here to talk about that. Now, Liz, you believe it's important to have a budget, and I can understand why adults should have one. But why would a teenager need a budget?
A budget is what helps you get what you want and not waste money on the things that you don't care about. Because if you just go along in your day-to-day life, you're kind of going from one shiny object to the next. You could wind up spending all your money, and then you don't get the stuff that you might really want. You know, like a new car or a trip abroad or whatever's important to you. So what a budget does is just make sure you're spending money where you want to spend it and that you're not wasting it where you don't.
Does this have to be a big, complicated spreadsheet deal?
No, I think that doesn't work for a lot of people. Having a big, complicated spreadsheet is something that engineers really get into. The rest of us need to keep it fairly simple. You want to sketch out some of the bigger expenses that you're facing in your life, and you want to take a look at what money is coming in and how you put that across. But you don't necessarily need to track every single penny. This is about, making sure that the big steps are happening, not necessarily tracking every single dime.
And if you know you want to get a new cell phone or an iPad or an Xbox, then you have to sort of cut back in a couple of months so you can put money aside to get that purchase, right?
Exactly. And people are used to making these choices from the very first time they get an allowance or get money from their parents, however you get it. You know that if you spend all your money on candy, you can't spend it again on a ticket to the movies. You have to choose one or the other. And that's basically what a budget helps you do, is that if you know that you want something down the road, like the latest iPad or iPhone or whatever it is, what you want to do is figure out, okay, how much is that going to cost me? And then figure out how much you can put aside every week so that you can buy that thing at the end of a few weeks. That's the way to go about it, rather than, just grabbing it and maybe paying interest on debt or, trying to figure out what else you're going to have to give up in order to get this. Planning it in advance allows you to get these things and not worry about it.
So the bottom line here is if you really want to be independent and pay your own way, you've got to track your cash flow. Got to know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a skill that grown-ups really need, is to know what's coming in, know what's going out, and take control of the process so that you're not just at the whim of advertisers. You're really thinking about what you really want out of life and how to get it.
And when you're making those decisions, you have to decide quality versus quantity. Maybe I don't get this to get that, or I get two of these and not one of that, or you have to do this balancing act all the time.
You really do, because there's sort of an infinite amount you can spend on almost anything. There's the cheap version, there's a budget version, there's the step up from that. You can get hamburger or you can get steak. From cars, you can get a little budget mini car, or you can drive around in a Tesla. There's just a huge range. So you have to make decisions constantly about what you're willing to spend, when you're willing to go cheap, which is fine, and when you want to invest in quality. And if it's something that you're going to use a lot, something that's going to really enhance your life, probably you're going to lean for the quality. If it's something that can be fun and disposable, then maybe you want to go for the cheap.
And maybe you make a decision not to purchase at all. Maybe I don't buy that pair of jeans so I can buy 2 more video games.
Exactly. And there's other factors that come in as well. You want to be a good citizen for the earth. Buying a lot of stuff means that you have to figure out how to store it, how to maintain it, how to clean it, and how to dispose of it when it's done. So the fewer of those decisions you make, the less impact you're having, not just on the world, but also on yourself. So anytime you're thinking about buying something, think about the long term. Where is it going to go? How am I going to take care of this? And what am I going to do when it's time to get rid of it?
Fast fact: more money is printed each year for the game Monopoly than is printed for all the real currencies around the world. Of course, that money isn't worth anything unless you want to buy Boardwalk or Park Place.
Herb Weisbaum, the Consumerman, is brought to you by lifesmarts.org. Here's a tip from Herb. Use the free study resources or join the competition. Just go to lifesmarts.org and increase your consumer smarts.
Okay, on we go. Some people use a debit card to control their spending. They find it easier to stick to their budget if they're paying with cash, and that debit card is just an electronic way of paying with cash, since the money comes right out of your checkbook. But a debit card itself doesn't necessarily guarantee responsible spending. Let's talk about that with Gerri Detweiler. She's Director of Consumer Education for Credit.com.
A debit card is essentially a plastic check. So when you use your debit card, you're accessing the money in your checking account to pay for an item. And it usually happens very quickly, in most cases instantaneously these days.
So how could you possibly get in trouble pulling money from your checking account?
There's a couple ways you can get in trouble with a debit card. One is if you're not keeping track of how much money you have in your account. Let's say you make a purchase with your debit card, but you don't pay attention. You don't enter it in a check register or keep track of it. And then you write a check, and there's not enough money to cover that check because you forgot about the debit card purchase, and pretty soon you overdraft your account. That results in extra fees, and of course you have to pay that money back to the bank. The other way you can get in trouble with a debit card is when you sign up for your debit card, your financial institution may offer you something called overdraft protection. And what that will do is it will allow you to basically go over your limit, spend more than you have in your checking account, but the bank will charge you a fee for that, and that fee could be very expensive, often around $35.
Whew.
So you could just buy a latte, but if there's not enough money in the account, that could result in a $25, $35 charge because you went over your limit. And that, of course, really adds up quickly.
Now, this is really important, and a lot of people get confused by it, so let me go over it. The overdraft protection a bank offers you on your debit card will let you take money out of an ATM or make a purchase at a store when you don't have enough money in your checking account. You'll have an overdraft, and you'll get socked with a huge fee, $30 to $35. If you want to be able to do that, overdraw your account and pay a very steep fee every time you do. Say yes to the bank's overdraft protection on your debit card. If you want the transaction to be declined if you're going to overdraw, which avoids the fee, you say no to overdraft protection. Like I said, it's confusing. Just ask the bank. If I do this, will I be charged a fee if I overdraw using my debit card? That way, you'll be sure you made the right choice. And no matter how you do it, whether on paper or on your computer, you've got to keep track of your checking account, the withdrawals, the deposits, and the balance.
At a minimum, if you're going to use a debit card, you must keep track of your balance. So you probably can get an app from your bank. You check your email, you check your social media every day. Go in and check your bank balance, because even with debit cards, fraud can happen. And if it does, you want to find out about it as quickly as possible so you can notify your financial institution and hopefully prevent further losses.
Thanks, Gerri. Gerri Detweiler with Credit.com, the good people who sponsor the Consumerman podcast.
Fast fact. According to a 2012 Rand Youth poll, 80% of teenage girls said shopping is one of their favorite hobbies and activities. 80%!
Before we go, let's go back to Liz Weston from MSN Money. Liz, most teens don't think about saving. I certainly didn't when I was that age, but is this something they should be doing?
The best thing you can do, and I wish that everybody in high school knew this lesson, is pay yourself first. And what that means is put aside something out of every piece of money that you get, whether it's money handed to you by your parents, money you're earning, however it is. Put some aside, because that single habit alone can make you wealthy over time. It really makes a huge difference. It'll make a difference in your life, short term and long term if you have some savings. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. Start with 10%. 10% of any money you get, put it aside. And here's the real trick. If you can start investing that money, you basically have the world by the tail, because the best time to get started with investing is in your teens. Next best is in your 20s. Next best is in your 30s. The longer you wait, the less that you're going to, get out of the system, essentially. You want to get started as early as possible, and you just want to get in that habit of putting aside a little bit of everything you get and paying yourself first.
And if you have a job, so you're getting income, you could actually open a 401k when you're very young.
Exactly, and that would be wonderful, because a lot of 401ks have company matches, and what that basically is free money. You put in a contribution, your company matches it, instant 50% return. There's nowhere else you can get something like that I know of, so you really want to take advantage of it. And even if you don't have a 401k through your work, you can always open an IRA or a Roth IRA. Put money in that and let it grow over time.
Liz Weston from MSN Money and the author of a number of books, including Your Credit Score. Liz, great advice. I think you made us all a lot smarter. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
My pleasure, Herb.
Well, that's it for the first edition of the Consumerman Show. Thanks for being with us. If you liked what you heard, share it with your friends, because we all need to be smarter consumers. And don't forget to join the competition and use the free study resources at lifesmarts.org.
The Consumerman Show is brought to you by the good folks at Credit.com, a place to comparison shop for credit cards and get your credit score absolutely free every 30 days, plus expert advice on a variety of financial topics. We'll be back with a brand new Consumerman Show next month on LifeSmarts.org. LifeSmarts.org. LifeSmarts. Learn it,